Hello and welcome to another edition of Only in Illinois, the weekly video recap from Reboot, Illinois. As always, I'm Madeline Dubeck.
And I'm Matt Dietrich.
And we had a lot happening this week on several different topics. The annual release of a huge amount of data occurred from the State Board of Education with the state school report cards coming out on Halloween, and it was a little bit scary this year. Tell us about it, Matt. What were the broad strokes?
The biggest news that came out of the school report cards this year was a tremendous drop in the percentage of students in high school and elementary school who are considered proficient in math, reading, and science. For the grade school kids last year, the proficiency rate was at 83%. This year it was 59%, and that's not because the students got a lot worse. It's because the State Board of Education made its standards more rigorous. So what is considered proficient now was not considered, or what was considered proficient last year is not considered proficient this year. Thus, we saw a drop of more than 20 points among grade school and high school students.
So they're sort of changing the measurements midstream, so to speak, so you don't want to read too much into it, but still a little something to be concerned about and take a look at. And there are a lot of media sites out there, the Tribune, the Sun-Times, the Daily Herald, who offer, searchable data on their websites that you can check out, and we linked to those from your blog on that this week if you haven't had a chance to catch up with that. There also was a new study from called the Fiscal Futures Project. Tell us about that. The
Fiscal Futures Project is affiliated with the University of Illinois' Institute for Government and Public Affairs, and they released a three-part study that took an exhaustive look at Illinois' fiscal condition. And kind of to sum the whole thing up, their conclusion was that Illinois is not in a financial crisis, because a crisis, by definition, is something temporary that you're passing through. And what they say is that Illinois has a chronic financial ailment. And the study made the point, number one, that even if the current increased income tax rates stay in effect, it's not going to get Illinois out of this hole. And another very interesting finding was the researchers showed that when the tax increase went into effect in 2011, there was a corresponding spike in the unemployment rate in Illinois, and they compare Illinois to other Midwestern states, and we're lagging way behind, which we've always known.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of work to do to get the patient back into good health. So the legislature comes back in session for the second half of its fall veto session next week. That could be among the things discussed. Certainly pensions might be a possibility. We've been thinking that the prospects were not good for pension reform, and there was no sign of any activity, and I was predicting earlier this week we wouldn't see anything happen until after the March primary. But I checked out our friends at Chicago Tonight and WTTW, and they had a panel with 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans from the Pension Conference Committee on this week, and they were all, or at least a majority of them, were pretty hopeful that something might actually happen next week. So either they are way more optimistic even than me, or we'll see, maybe there's some hope after all. I would love to be proven wrong.
Well, that's definitely a good sign. But as I said last week in this video, and as the Fiscal Futures Project study reinforced, pension reform is just the start of our fixing the state's financial problems. It's not the magic solution that's going to allow our income tax to drop down lower and all of a sudden get all of our bills paid and get us back on the right track. It is the biggest step we can take toward getting on that road, and it has to be taken, but
it's a long road.
Exactly.
All right, so if you haven't used our sound off tool with the legislators heading back to Springfield, now is the time to do it. Please check it out on our website at rebootillinois.com. We'll see you next week.